So it always seems like there's like 150 shark movies that come out every year, but then, there also seems to be at least one or two that actually look like they're worth your time. And this was one of those. And this is brought to us by the director of not only Wormwood, the Wormwood movies, but also recently the very, very good spider movie Sting, which we watched, I think, last year. And along with that other movie, Infested, was a really cool creature feature, double feature that we enjoyed the hell out of. And so, Beasts of War is an Australian film set in World War II. These guys become shipwrecked and they are floating adrift on a piece of debris, and they are being hunted by a great white shark. I thought this was really damn good. Definitely the best shark movie I've seen in a while. The last good shark movie that I watched was like Under Paris on Netflix. Was that last year or something? That one was more fun. This one's much more serious. This is a very serious film. This is not trying to be playful or silly in the slightest. This deals with, as I said, you have soldiers who you get introduced to as they're in training to go to the war. You get the dynamics between everybody. You have, the archetypes of soldiers in movies. You've got the two butting heads of like the two alpha males. And, when they're out there, there's like a bond that comes together for them to try to figure out what the hell to do, and protect one another as soldiers would do. Now they're caught in like a fog bank, and they're of course low on supplies. They don't have really any water or any food, and they're hoping that they can get spotted. But they're in the middle of a war zone, and not one of the cool added tensions of this movie is that because of where they are and the time that they're in, the people that they could come across or like might not be friendly, right? And they're wearing outfits that would immediately let them know that they are not to be rescued, right? So I think that adds a whole good layer of tension to this that other shark films might be lacking, is that like not everyone would rescue you in this situation, right? You have enemy forces that they're battling against, and we're fighting in this very region. This is why they're shipwrecked there. Now, yeah, I mean, as far as the shark goes, the shark is completely practical. I don't think there was any CGI used towards the shark in the movie at all. Had a very, very similar look to the Jaws shark. Although he's a little bit more battle torn, and a little more evil looking. Now, he's not the shark itself. I should say she, because the guy on there specifically shouts out that this would be a female. So I guess she. She doesn't get used too much, but her presence is always felt. Right, the shark's presence is absolutely always felt. You know that anytime that they're in the water, they're fucked, right? So like anytime they get anywhere near the water, like watch out. I really really liked the soldiers, and I really liked our main characters here. We have our like one main hero character, and one cool thing they do with him is they have this backstory going on with him that's told through some flashbacks, and it remains pretty vague. I mean, you're mostly supposed to kind of just figure it out on your own, and it's not that complicated to piece together. But I liked that it just felt more ambiguous, that it was just not like in your face, and he had to go through some exposition dump where he laid out all his feelings and was like, "This is what happened in the summer of," like. It's just something that's in his mind that's just kind of like weighing on his conscience. And I like that it kind of periodically pops up in this film. And the camaraderie between people, it's good. There's people who really like each other, there's people who are like okay with each other, and then there's people who just outright just dislike each other, and they're all having to try to work together. But mostly it's just a survival film, as far as like there's not a whole lot they can do. They're just kind of trying to stay alive and hope that a boat or a plane or something finds them. Now, the film could feel a tad repetitious at times, for sure, but like that's the limitation of shark movies, right? Like, there's a shark, it's in the water, and the people have to be on the water in a precarious predicament so that they can't get to land, so that the piece of you know debris that they're on is big enough for them to be able to be up on, but not big enough for them to feel safe on, right? And you have to get into the water most of the time to get eaten by the shark, so you have to come up with ways to get them in the water, and there's only so many ways to get people in the water. And yeah, I mean, there's a couple really surprising moments in this. There's one scene with a grenade that it was really devastating to me, and I just, in the moment, I was like, I think this is a dream, and it wasn't, and it was actually pretty harrowing, and I was like, oh shit, man, like that was intense, that was surprising and sad as fuck. And then there's another one towards the end, which I didn't think of it in the moment, but when it happened, I was like, oh shit. And there's some really cool shots, because this all is in the fog, and there's this kind of like feeling of claustrophobia on the ocean, which is actually really hard to achieve, since obviously it's vast and open and endless, or seemingly so. So it doesn't usually give a feeling of claustrophobia, but because of like kind of the blanket of fog that's laying over them, and the fact that they don't know where they are and they can't see anything really, and then that really adds to like the claustrophobic feeling to it, because it feels like only their little stretch of the water is the only thing that exists to them in the moment. They don't really know what's going on out like just beyond the fog bank. So yeah, I think this looks really cool. I really like the aesthetic of it. I think the performances are all very, very good. The acting is all solid. So yeah, I mean, this is a really solid. Oh, there actually was another good shark movie last year that I watched that also took place around-ish this time. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's like some divers go and they're like trying to get this gold out of a car. I watched it last year. That was actually quite good as well. They usually make at least one or two good shark movies every year. A lot of people are always like, oh, they never make good shark movies. That's not true. They just make a lot of bad ones. They make a lot of bad ones, like disproportionate, like wildly disproportionate. For every 100 bad shark movies, there's one good. And that might not even, I might be being generous there. That it might be even worse than that. It might be every 200 or 300. They make so many every year. I feel like they've definitely tamed down on them. I think that was probably because of the popularity of like Sharknado. Sharknado and was it Roger Corman, who did that like Sharktopus stuff, and they did like the 3-headed shark attack, 4-headed shark attack, all that stuff. And then they started doing like the cute names of stuff like Raiders of the Lost Shark, play on words type stuff. I feel like those are a lot of those have to do with like the popularity of the Sharknado movies. So you just got a lot of that stuff, and almost none of that stuff is any good. There's very, very few of those are actually entertaining, and I think most people are just sick of them. Every time I see one, I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I did Ghost Shark like last year, I think, which is so fucking silly. So it's always great to see a movie like this that does take itself seriously, that does have a budget, that does have a solid, competent director, and actually can make something that has some like emotional weight. There's some moments in this that are really like sad and devastating, and yeah, I mean, good stuff. So if you like World War II type movies, now this is Australia's side of the war versus Japan. Something we don't see a hell of a lot here in the States, right? It's always like the Americans are the war heroes, and that's the only side with that we typically see here. I mean, you know, obviously outside of very few examples. In fact, weirdly, we almost never see the Japanese side of World War II. It's almost always Germany. It is very rare that you see Japanese people as, you know, the forces against in these types of movies. So anyway, yeah, very cool film. Very cool film. If you're into shark films and you're looking for something like, you know, I'll tell you this is the last thing I'll say on this one, is that this was definitely making me think this would have been cool had this been this. Because this is basically almost how this is, except for they're on a piece of debris. If they weren't and they were just kind of like bobbing around in the water, this actually made me think of Jaws and the USS Indianapolis that Quint talks about. You know, on the ship on the Orca. This made me think of like, wow, that would actually been a really cool way to do like a Jaws movie. Jaws prequel is Quint's backstory surviving the USS Indianapolis and him going into the water with his friends. I mean, that's kind of what this movie is. So you could almost just pretend that this is like the Jaws prequel, and one of these characters is Quint. That, I don't know. I mean, he's not Australian, but you know what I mean. It's just, it made me think like that actually be pretty freaking cool. Steven Spielberg should get on that, man. No one's ever been able to top his shark movie, and maybe he can come back and you know, match it at least. I don't think anyone could ever make a shark movie better than Jaws, but regardless, he could make one pretty damn close. So that's that. Yeah, Beasts of War. Kick-ass film. Definitely check it out. It's available to rent currently. Let me know. Adios.